Afternoon, year 11. Just a video to quick one, hopefully well under 5 minutes, and try to get it to that, on Letchworth Garden City, which is going to come up in the paper on Thursday. Nice little snazzy background behind my head today. I think it's New York City anyway, which makes it look a bit fancy there. Now I'm just going to quickly go through the permutations of what will happen if we get the significance question, or what will happen if we get the description question. Knowledge that you use for both of those is the same. Description's worth 8 marks, significance is worth 12. Realistically, unlike Mark, you should be writing about the same things in both questions, unless they ask you a question about the problems leading up to ideas like garden cities, etc., etc. But I'll do a separate little video on that before we get there, but it's not something that we're really anticipating that they're going to do. So just quickly getting into this. Now I'm going to start with the main things. First I'm going to start with Ebenezer Howard. Obviously he is the main person with the idea of garden cities. He's a social reformer. We know all about social reformers. There's like Booth, Rowntree, etc., etc. Now he's influenced by Cadbury and Lever, who are what we call philanthropists, and they, sorry, that was my kitchen door, and they believe in basically social reform and creating better conditions in and around England. Now he basically gets influenced by them and their projects, which is building social housing, building places to live with more than just houses. Obviously they've got libraries, they've got parks, play areas, churches, all that sort of business as well. So it's following along those lines. Now he writes a book called The Peaceful Path to Social Reform, amongst other books, and he basically influences the idea of a garden city. Now the main idea that comes from Howard, which is why I'm doing it in this order, because it kind of makes sense, is to talk about Howard, then talk about the idea, and then talk about what the idea involves. Now the big, I suppose, overarching principle that he has, the big idea, which is significant, but you can also describe, we get to the question about describing the garden city, is the three magnets, which is combining the best aspects of town and the best aspects of country and bringing them together in the town and country magnet. If you talk about what those best aspects are, the town has jobs, it has transport, it has infrastructure, but it's also got pollution and overcrowding and things like that. The country, on the other hand, lots of space, lots of green areas, but poor pay, not many jobs, and not the best amount of housing or transport. So it's bringing those two aspects together into the town and country magnet, and that's what Letchworth Garden City is built upon. Now, I'm just going to dive into now. If you look at these diagrams we've got here, we've got housing up in the top there, we've got these kind of social aspects like cinema, etc. down here, and then we've got transport over here. So I'm just going to flip to a previous slide to talk about those things very quickly. Now, the idea of housing. If you are to describe the housing in Letchworth City originally, he's building houses that are cheap, cost 150 quid, that anyone can afford. And there's also housing for more well-off people and middle class as well. Now that kind of ends up being built right away from 1940 with large estates called the Jackman's Estate. And they're all built by Letchworth Garden City Limited or Letchworth Garden City Company. Now the social aspect is also built for, like we said there, Letchworth Garden City is more than just a place of houses, it's got the social aspect to it. So it's got the Skittles Club, social club. Alcohol was not allowed until 1954. We've got the one Mr. Howden, never would have been living there, he would have been banned. Broadway Cinema, built in 1936, redeveloped in the 50s, and then you've got like a children's farm, leisure centre, etc., etc. So the principle of Letchworth Garden City is that it has a social aspect, it's made a decent place to live for everybody. Now the transport aspect, it's only 30 miles from London, so they build a train station in Letchworth Garden City, the London-Cambridge line, and obviously we've got the first traffic circle inspired by the Arc de Triomphe in, again, it just makes it that bit easier to get about Letchworth. Now, there's 35,000 people bought tickets in 1905 to visit London for the day, so obviously that was a major success, and it just kind of underlined the good aspects of building this garden city. Now, a couple of other things to mention. Concept of green belt. Now this idea that you cannot build on green belt was established in Letchworth Garden City. In 1938 they came up with the Town and Country Planning Act, which made it illegal, which became the Green Belt Act, which made it basically you have to seek permission to build on any of these green land that's around the city. So that way Britain doesn't become one big giant city that's, no space, no green areas, no quality of life. That's an important aspect, or something that's significant about Letchworth as well. Then you've got obviously new towns which have been built or inspired by Letchworth. So places like Chelsea Wood, Milton Keynes, Stevenage, particularly after World War II. They looked at Letchworth and said, well, how do we rebuild? All these areas have been knocked down by bombs, and they rebuilt it with this whole concept that's here as well. Last thing to mention on this particular slide is the idea of the council. Now, Letchworth is a long way from laissez-faire, isn't it? It's basically a limited company, so it's a private company working with the public, basically, to produce somewhere where everybody wants to live. And so Letchworth is not owned by any rich industrialists. It's a combination of wealth and people working together. And that's inspired loads of people since. Talk about people like Gordon Brown building eco-towns. And you talk about, people like Tony Blair and various different politicians have used this kind of idea to get wealth working with basically public money to make the area better. So that's really why Letchworth is so significant. Now, there's a couple of things to mention on here. We've mentioned a lot of these people here. Geddes and Osborne were the town planners that created the original design. Letchworth Garden City inspired other garden cities like Welwyn Garden City. It's also inspired countries abroad. So Europe, Central Park in America, Russia, lots of areas have been built on this principle. Just mentioned Gordon Brown then. He was inspired by the idea and came up with the idea of eco-towns. And this idea of councils, again, is local councils looking after building social housing, planning out what's going to be built in an area. So that is hopefully everything you're going to need about Letchworth Garden City in under 6 minutes. Remember, big point made there was significance. You just say what is important about these things. You get a description about garden cities, it's the same, but you don't need to use the word significance. You just describe. Tell the examiner everything you know about the concept, all the names, all the facts about garden cities. It's slightly over 7 minutes, but hopefully that gives you everything you need. Good luck with this question.